All right, so we're actually conducting an interview in my office, which is kind of weird, but that's because we have Stuart Kent with us from the UK. Stuart, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, yes. I'm a program manager with the Team Architect team, part of Visual Studio Team System. I've been leading the program, the development of DSL tools, which is what I'm going to talk about today.
What's DSL stand for?
Domain-specific languages.
Okay.
Okay, so shall I just make a start then?
Sure. Well, why don't you explain a little bit about what DSL language? What are DSL?
What's the purpose of it?
Yep.
So I'll explain it briefly, but probably the easiest way to explain that is through a demo.
Okay.
But just our target audience is really systems integrators, possibly ISVs, large enterprises.
Okay.
And we have some customers who have actually taken the DSL tools and are rolling out live projects now. Okay. And basically, the idea is you develop designers, domain-specific designers, graphical languages for modeling your systems. Okay, and from there you generate most of the code of your systems. Now the trick is to be able to do it in such a way that when you generate, you can also hand customize with additional code the stuff you can't generate, and that you're also able to customize your code generators, because you know. If somebody delivers you a code generator and there's a bug or whatever, you need to be able to fix it. Okay. So I thought what I'd do to start is just show you one of the samples that ships in the box.
Okay. And which box is that?
So this is the VS SDK, the latest VS SDK version 3.
Okay, so Visual Studio 2005 SDK version 3,
yeah.
which is available for download now.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So actually, perhaps the first thing to do is just to bring up the website, if I can remember where it is. So if you'll excuse me, I'm just going to go why is it these times not
You're looking for the SDK download?
No, I'm looking for the way I remember to get into that's right, isn't it? Slash. It's a kind of weird way to get into the place to get it, but the reason I do that is because I know I've got a link off my page, which is the DSL tools site. So we actually have a web page,
and that
which
is
explains it.
msdn.microsoft.com/vstudio/DSL tools.
Yep.
All right.
And off there, you can get a link to the VS SDK.
Okay.
And the great thing now with the VS SDK is you don't have to register in order to download it anymore.
Right, that's it.
So we've now got, and you just download it and install it.
That's awesome.
That's it.
Very cool.
So, once you've downloaded it and installed it, you'll end up in your program files. And what I've done here is, if you drill down into this directory, so the Visual Studio 2005 SDK, this is the date of the release, 09-2006. Then Visual Studio Integration, Samples, and then finally you'll get to the DSL Tools samples.
Okay.
And in there's a sample called End-to-End Wizard, UIP. Now this sample is a kind of toy sample, but actually it exercises a lot of the parts of DSL Tools. So what we did, we used it actually in our testing of the thing. So it's a good example to show you all the pieces.
Sure.
So I thought I'd start with that.
Okay.
So what I've done is I've created a copy of this on the desktop over here, and I've opened it, which is here. So you can see it's just opened the folder. So that's all I've done. And now what I'm going to do is just open it in Visual Studio.
And so this is Visual Studio with the SDK.
So this is Visual Studio with the SDK.
Great.
Now, I'll just open this file and just tell you a little bit about this solution. Okay. So this is a definition of a designer. Okay. On one side you have what we call the domain model, and on the other side you have the shapes, the graphical notation. Now I'll get into this a bit later, okay, but basically the idea is you define your designer in this. In the Solution Explorer there's a whole bunch of code generators, which are these things here.
So you opened up the generated code folder, and those are code generators.
Those are code generators, and they're all over the place. And there's this button up here, which is to actually called Transform All Templates, which runs the code generators.
Okay, so we have a dialog here.
So now what it's doing is it's generating code off the definition of this designer. Okay?
Okay.
So I'll just let that finish. Won't take long. There we go. So once it's done, I can then build it. So let's just well, actually, I'll just go start debugging. And what that's doing now is building that code and registering the designer in the experimental copy of Visual Studio.
Okay, so it's launched another shell here
So
of Visual Studio.
That's right, yeah.
Great.
And here is the designer with a sample
Wow.
that you get in the debugging solution open, okay?
Okay.
So that designer we generated.
Cool.
That's this whole thing. You get a toolbox and everything, okay. So, this is a designer for creating the logic, if you like, of wizards, wizard UIs, you know, straightforward wizards. So we got here, this is a wizard for, you know, hotel registration. So you've got search for rooms, you've got some fields and stuff that data that goes with that. You've then got a choice box and so on. Okay.
Oh, so it's just like a workflow then.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
okay.
Now we've actually written some code generators that work off this model.
Okay.
Okay, so here they are. They generate various files. We've also used, if I go into the references bit, those code generators generate code and a config file, which is that, app.config, which work with a framework. Now actually this framework is the PAGS UIP application block.
Okay, cool.
So all we did was we took the source, renamed the namespace and stuff to imagine it was a company who built this for themselves.
Good reuse there.
Yeah, and what we can do is we can then generate the code off this designer. Okay, so I'll just do that. So it's the same process again as we're using to generate the designer. We're now using to generate code
It's kind of
off
cyclical
our
here,
model.
huh?
That's right, yeah. And then if I just run this, hey presto, you'll see an
There's our
application
wizard.
running.
Very cool.
I do start. Now if you look at these pages, all right, there's some things to observe here. So this is the first room search, okay, so that's that page we're starting with, the initial page. So if I go, perhaps if I just move this wizard over here, is that okay?
Yep, that's fine.
So search for rooms. Now if I just select that and select F4, okay, you see it's got a description called room search, n before start simulates, etc. And the description on the wizard page is exactly from that.
Oh, great.
The model.
So it just pulls it straight from the properties.
These fields are from here, so if you look at these fields, and again you look at the description on here, okay, that's coming from the properties, all right? And the logic flows as you'd expect, going found room, you have to accept that, and then you go to the next thing, and you get your customer details and so on. So you can see that the logic of the wizard is flowing through this from this model.
That's great.
Now, actually, you may think, oh, the code for a wizard is quite trivial and stuff like that. Well, no, there's a whole framework, application framework, that PAG decided was worth investing in to produce that UIP application block. There's stuff about a wizard where you've got to keep track of state, and if you roll back the wizard, it's got to remember the choices you've made before. It's then got to roll up all that data at the end that is then used to actually do whatever transaction or whatever you're doing at the end. So it's a bit more to it than one might expect.
Sure.
Okay. So another interesting thing about this is the code generation here. If I go back to, let me just stop debugging. Stop debugging, so I get the Solution Explorer back. Okay, so if I go back and look at this code generation, okay, we've got a number of things happening here. So we've got these templates generate code, 100% code. We've also got an app config file being generated. If I just open that, okay, and again you'll start to see stuff coming in from that. So you've got things like search for rooms, customer details, and so on, coming from that model. Okay. Now that app config file is interpreted by this framework, which is the UIP app block framework. And then in addition, you have to write a little bit of custom code against the generated code. So what this shows is a pattern whereby of kind of model-driven development, whereby what you're doing is you're generating some code off your model, the code it makes sense to generate, okay, in separate files using partial classes, which are really great for this. Okay, you can add custom code yourself, all right, and then you also have a framework that's interpreting some of the model data, which gets generated into a config file.
So what kind of custom code? Is that like validation logic?
Yeah, so
Okay.
so if we go back here, how do you know whether a room's been found or not? You need to write some
Oh,
logic.
sure. Check
Now we
database.
could have put a whole language, textual language on this. You'd have to encode the logic. But code's good for that. So why bother? You know.
Sure.
So you add it in the extra code. So the final thing I just want to show you here is just to give you a sense of what you're gaining by this. If I do a find in files, and now I'll find for that string search for rooms. Okay. Let's just do that. Okay, find all. Where's that there? Now look at how many files that string is found in this solution. Look at how many of the generated code files this string is found in.
Oh, so
Okay.
otherwise you would have had to update all of those places yourself.
If you'd done it by hand code, you
Yep.
know, directly against the framework, every time you decide to change that, you'd have had a huge job
Wow,
to do.
that really speaks to the value
And
of this.
that's the kind of the value of the approach.
That's great.
All right. So we used the same approach to generate designers.
Okay.
Okay, which is what this does, and that speeds up considerably the development of a designer. So what I'm going to do now is actually just close this down. Yes. What I'm going to do now is close it down and just create a new designer for you. Okay?
Just right here?
Just right here.
All right.
All right. So let's make a start here. So let's you go File, New Project.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. And what you find now is under Other Project Types you find an extensibility place. Under extensibility, you'll see we've got this template called Domain Specific Language Designer. Okay.
Okay.
Now what I'm going to do is create a little state chart language because it's kind of easy, and it allows me to show a few things. Okay.
Okay.
So let's call that state chart.
So similar to what we get with Visio is what we're looking for here?
that kind of thing.
Okay.
Okay. Except you'll see some things behavioural things that you can control that you can't really do in Visio templates.
Cool.
Okay. So the first thing you'll find, we have this custom wizard that comes up, and you'll find actually we've got a number of templates installed, which gives you a starting point. So we've got task flow, which is a kind of swim lane activity style diagram. We've got component models, which are kind of components with ports on the edge of the shapes, okay, and we've got class diagrams, which are like some class diagrams. What I'm going to do is start with our minimal language, which is about the smallest thing you could possibly have, that at least gives you a designer with a graphical surface.
It's our Hello World of DSL
that's
projects.
Right, that's right.
Great.
And then what we're going to do is we should have called that Hello World. Well, never mind. So what we're actually going to do is I'm going to create that language, and then we'll just edit it on the fly, and you'll see the changes as I make those edits.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
So you get various choices. So the first thing is you can provide an extension, and the wizard searches Visual Studio's registry to see if that extension has already been used.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to call this, I don't know, statechart.sc. That will do. Okay.
Okay.
So, and you can set up an icon. You can change this all later, by the way, but you can choose an icon which is going to be used for the file icon for your models. All right?
Okay.
We'll
Now,
just use the default one.
Now, what if you did use an extension that was already in use? Would that?
Well, let's see. CD, class designer. Right, okay. So it says this is there,
Okay.
and you have the option. Well, in this case, you can't because this is not a domain-specific language tool, so it's not
okay.
allowing you to uninstall it. If it was a domain-specific language tool, you could have the option to uninstall it.
Oh, okay.
Because often you may be developing a couple of languages, and perhaps you had an old one on the machine, and
Sure.
you want to get rid of it, and so on. So I'll put that back to statechart. Okay. Now let's carry on. So you've got the icon. You can now set some things like namespace, the name of the company, and stuff like that. So
Okay.
I'll just say Microsoft Stuart, say .statechart. Okay. Next, we need a strong. Usually, you just if you've got one of your own, you can set it, but
Sure.
usually you just create a new one. Okay, and then a summary of what it's going to do. Let's click Finish. So now what it's doing is creating a solution for you based on that template. Okay, so it's a whole brand new solution it's created.
Okay.
And once it's created the solution, it's now asking, do you want to run the code generator? So it's now running all the code generators off the definition, which is the DSL definition.
Okay.
Okay, so that's that done. Won't take long, nearly done. Right, now what I'm going to do is just debug it again, and it's building it and installing again in the second copy of Visual Studio. Okay, and it comes with so the template has in it a debugging project which allows you to immediately start playing with it.
That's that harness we saw, the extra Visual Studio shell? Okay.
Yeah, so this is the EXP shell that you've got, yeah, and then that opens on a particular. We configure the solution to open the EXP shell when you hit F5 on another solution that we've also shoved out for you as part of the result of that template. Okay. If I just open a sample, here we go. Here's a sample model, and there's my editor. So I've now created a new editor registered in Visual Studio. That was easy. There we go. Okay. So what we're going to do now is go back and start changing the notation and changing everything. Okay. So let's go back here. Let's just stop debugging. There we go. Shift F5. I'm going to have to press that. Right. Okay. So this is a state machine. So let's change some of these. So the first thing is you've got the kind of this domain model. Okay. And the domain model is. Oh, let's get that right. So the domain model is, if you like, the underlying concepts of your language. Okay. Okay. So and we'll see where the domain model gets exposed. When you write those code generators, you want to write them against your domain. So if I'm writing code generators, I could be writing code generators if it's a state machine to generate according to the kind of gang of four state pattern, for example, in object-oriented language. Okay. Now, when I write those code generators, I want to be talking in the terms of my language. So I want things that say, you know, go and find me a state machine, and go and find me the states in that state machine. Sure. Okay. Rather than some kind of generic language or whatever. All right. So that's where this starts to hit. So I changed the state machine. I changed that to state. Okay. State machine has elements. Notice that as I change these, the names of these relationships changed automatically. Oh, okay. So in this designer, we've got things called tracking properties, which, unless you say otherwise, will track other properties, like the names of this, which saves a lot of time and effort. Okay. Yeah. I will change this relationship, and I'll change that to transition. Okay. So let's just explain a bit about what this is saying. So this is saying a state can transition to many other states as its targets. Okay. And also a state can be transitioned to from many, that's 0 to star, many states. Okay, sure. And we'll see that behaviour reflected in the designer. So okay, that's the domain model kind of sorted out. Does transition need to be fixed there? No, that's fine. That's fine, yeah, okay. So what I can do now is now go and change the graphical language. So let's define a state shape. Now, state shape is usually a rounded rectangle. So if I move over to the properties grid here, you'll see we've now got a load of nice editors to choose what this is. So it's a rounded rectangle, not a rectangle. Okay. Let's make the line a little thinner. I always think it looks nicer with thinner lines. What else can we do? Well, let's choose a more interesting colour. I don't know. How about lemon chiffon? Yeah, that sounds great. That's that okay, so I've now changed the state shape, the properties, its visual properties, and now the connector, which is my transition link. That will do. Okay, and now a transition link in a state diagram is usually not dashed, it's usually solid, so let's just change that to solid. Okay, let's change that to make it a little thing, and that's it. Right, okay. So now what these lines are saying is that this shape that we've just defined is mapped to this underlying concept, this state. Sure. So whenever I have states that I create in my model, it's going to be visualized through the state shape. And whenever I've got links in my model from transition from one state to another, it's going to be visualized through a transition link. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Right, now just we've got this little DSL details window here. Okay, now what that does is this is the details of this mapping. I won't go into the full details here, but let's just have a look at this decorator map. So we've got a decorator defined on this state shape. Okay, where are you? It's up there. Do you see up there? Okay. Got it. Let's just have a look at the properties of this. This is a way of attaching. This is a text decorator. It's a way of attaching text to a shape. Okay, So you can position this decorator where you like. At the moment it's positioned in the centre. Perhaps we should position it at the top if it's a state shape.
Cool.
All right. Now, if we go back to this mapping, you'll see that this decorator is mapped to something, and it's mapped to the name property of the state.
Okay.
So what that means is that whatever value you put in that property
Yep.
will appear as text in that decorator.
Just data binding there.
That's right. Okay,
Great.
you got it. Okay. So now I'll save that. Regenerate. Which is what? Let's get rid of. I trust my template. So. Okay, there we go. And start debugging again. Okay, so it's now bringing up the designer. Let's open the sample. Right. So that's interesting. So the first thing is, remember the sample had some stuff in it, okay? Well, we changed all the underlying concept names and everything. So it now doesn't understand the stuff that's in that file. So basically what it's done its best, which is in this case to read in nothing. So it's still done it, it's still read it in, it's just said, I don't understand this stuff, so I'm not going to read it in.
Okay.
But as you're changing your language, like I'll show an example in a minute, as you're changing your language, the way we've got the what's called the serialization, the way we persist model files as XML files, is such that if you make changes, stuff it doesn't understand, it will just discard and give you warnings, and the rest of it will happily read in.
Great.
Okay.
Very cool.
So now if I drag these across, you'll see that it's reflecting the changes to the language. Okay. So we've now got
same color we asked for.
That's right. Yeah, and that. Now what I'm going to show you is just let's have a look at a little bit of the behaviour of this language. Okay. So we've got behaviour here where I've got this arrow going to here, and I can create. Remember the many-to-many kind of relationship I talked about.
Right.
That means it's quite all right for not to the same one. Oh, that's true. I can do many-to-many, and I can go backwards. You know, that one can quite happily go to there and to there. Okay. Notice it wouldn't allow me to go from there to there. Okay. And that's because we have properties on relationships called duplicate links.
Okay.
So I'll change that switch in a minute, and you'll see a change in the behaviour.
Oh, really?
To this thing. Okay. So let's. So the other thing we have is an explorer here. Okay, which is so as we're so if you like the elements we're building up, okay, get reflected in this explorer. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So let's just that's right. Let's just stop debugging again. Right. Okay. So let's just go to that relationship which I said. And let's change the allow duplicates to be true. Okay.
Yep.
Now let's regenerate again. And debug. Stop debugging. Right. So let's open that sample again. Now this time we got a number of warnings which are all to do with the fact that transition in namespace, because I've changed that duplicates, the way the XML has to be done, okay, is different.
Okay.
So we're now getting warnings that it can't perhaps understand some stuff, and it's just telling us that. However, what it's done is it said, okay, it should be something different, but I can still read it in, so I'll read it in.
Pretty flexible, okay.
Yeah, okay. And when I save it, as you'll see, now let's just do the allow duplicates. If I go across there, it now allows it.
Wow.
Okay.
And how many of those can you drag across?
As many as you like, because it's just
wow, just continues to scale. That's amazing.
So the point is that you can change the behaviour of the designer with some very small changes to the domain model, and it's kind of the semantic behaviour of the designer. You know, what the meaning is you're trying to convey. Okay, so if you're interested in state machines which only allow transitions from one state to another and not transitions from a state to multiple states, then you can configure your designer to do that with just that little change.
I have to say, this is the first time I've seen this demonstrated, and I'm really impressed, because I know that, for example, when we were building the class designer as part of Visual Studio 2005, we went through a lot of UI designer views, because just interpreting and expecting exactly what a user might do with the system can result in a lot of UI changes in the way that you handle your designer. So now you could create 500 mappings here. That must be a lot of work.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So congratulations.
So, okay,
That's awesome.
Okay. So let's just stop debugging again.
Yep.
There we go. So the other thing I'll show you just here is let's switch off the allow duplicates now. Let's put that back to false again. And I just want to show you this cardinality bit, this multiplicity. So I'm going to change that to 0.1 now, okay, which is saying a state can only be linked to one state.
Okay.
All right. So let's just regenerate the code. Usual process. Get used to this process.
Yep.
We did a lot of work from earlier versions to speed this whole process up. We used to have to register, do a whole VS setup every time, which takes ages.
Wow.
So we've managed to bypass that, which now gets the kind of speed we get, which was really important because if you're doing this kind of thing a lot of the time, you need to be able to just do that. Okay.
Yep.
So now, if I open it, now it will really not like it now because I've removed the allow duplicates.
Oh, and you still have duplicates.
So it didn't like it, all right.
Yep.
So, but now if I do it, okay. So I removed the allow duplicate, so I would expect it not to work anymore, which it doesn't.
Sure enough.
But the other thing I did was I said it couldn't be connected to more than one state. So if I do that now, I can't connect it to more than one state. So we changed that behaviour again just by fiddling with those multiplicities. Okay. So that gives you a sense of creating a designer. I can go on for ages on this, but I think one other bit I'll show you is just a little bit more about these mappings and these decorators, the kind of configurability you have.
Okay.
So let's cancel that and just do stop debugging. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is add a numeration to state. So I'm going to give the notion of state of having start, stop, and normal. So it's a start state, a stop state, or a normal state.
Okay.
Okay. So what we're going to do is go into the DSL Explorer and add a new type, which is a new. I always do that up here, and add a new enumeration. Okay. And the enumeration I'm going to add is called state kind. There we go. So then let's add a couple of literals to this. Alright, we'll have one called start, another called stop, and actually let's add another one called normal. Say, okay, so we've got now states can have a start, stop, normal. So what I'll do is I'll add a property to state, okay, which is going to be its kind, right, and I'll go over to that property and I'll change the type to be that enumeration that I just declared.
Okay, just mapping it back then.
Okay. So now we've got states now know about what kind they are, whether they're a start, stop, or a start state, a stop state, or a normal state.
Okay.
And we'd like to visualize that somehow on the design surface.
That'd be nice.
Okay. So I'll start by visualizing it just as a piece of text. Okay. And then perhaps if you've got some icons around, we could visualize it as. Have you got any icons around on this machine anywhere?
Yeah, maybe in just the Windows folder. Feel free to poke around. I don't think I have any extra ones.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's actually there might be some. I can't remember whether there are any in here. Let's have a look in the resources. No. Oh, how about this one? No, it's just the bitmaps. All right. Okay. Let's start with a text decorator, and then if I can find an icon, we can do that. You'll see the point with the text decorator.
Okay.
All right. So what I'm going to do is have a decorator here. Okay. Here we go. Add text. All right. And this is going to be the kind of the kind decorator. All right, to represent the kind. Now we need to go into our mapping and actually create the map, the data binding between those two. So let's go down here. Let's look in the decorator maps, and we do want kind. Okay. Now what we're going to do is get it to display the kind property, so it will display the value of the enumeration. Okay. But what we're only going to do is it's only going to display it for start and stop. We won't display it for normal.
Oh, okay, because
so
it's...
if I had icons, I'd probably have two icon decorators. I'd have a red one and a green one.
Okay. Yep.
And I'd have the red one showing when it was start and the green one showing when it was stop.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm kind of, because I don't want to go to the business of starting to create icons everywhere, all right? Because I'll probably make a mess of it. So what I thought I'd do is I'll just do it with a text decorator instead.
That works for me.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So the filter property is, well, it's on kind.
Okay.
Well, actually, this is interesting. Okay. So I can add a value. So I want it to show when it's a start state, and I want it to show also when it's a stop state, but
okay.
not when it's normal.
Okay, so that's the visibility entry.
So
Does that make sense?
This is the visibility entry.
Great.
So if I now save that and regenerate, okay, there we go. And hit that F5 again. Right, so let's open our sample again. Now, let's just create. I don't think I saved it last time, which is the problem. So let's just do that. Okay, let's save it. So the first thing you notice is you've now got the decorator appearing. Okay, let's just do F4 to bring up the properties window. Right now, let's just switch this state. So if I change it to stop, it still appears. Okay. If I change it to normal, however, the decorator now disappears.
Oh, you're on state 3.
Yeah.
I was on the wrong one. Okay,
sorry.
great.
So do you see? So,
Yep.
So
Go back to stop.
Just start, it's there. Stop, it's there. But normal, it disappears.
Great.
So if I use an icon decorator, I get an image there. You can have any image you want.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Perhaps let's see if we can find one. Come on, let's. There must be something I can use. Right, okay. So you get the idea. So
yeah,
you
that's
can
great.
now,
That's easy.
So you can position these decorators wherever you like.
Yep.
They've got some standard positions, both inner and outer.
Okay.
Okay. And then you've got offset, so you can really accurately position them where
Sure.
you want to.
Sure.
Okay. And we find if you analyse graphical notations, you'll find they're basically a lot of them are box line plus a bunch of decorators.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we've got. Okay. So let's just stop debugging. Let's see if I can find an image somewhere. Okay, so let's add another decorator. We'll keep that text decorator anyway, and I'll just add another one called let's say start image, say. Okay, so we'll position this in a different place, so you can see the positions you've got here.
Sure.
Okay, so let's position it down at the bottom. Okay, bottom right-hand corner, that image. So now what we're going to do is we've got to find an image. So in the DSL designer, you can. Oh, I didn't mention that. Do you see where it says resources here?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, these all get generated as resx files. So
okay.
if I look in the generated code, okay, up here, you'll see that. Where is it? Resources or resx.
The bottom is that another subfolder?
It could be under here. No, it's somewhere. Hang on. I'm just missing it at the moment.
But those get deployed.
They get generated as resx files. I'm just possibly it's in.
Oh,
here.
there's a package.resx.
It could be that. Yes.
At the very bottom.
Yes.
If you scroll down.
Where's that?
Right there.
Okay, no, I'm just not seeing it at the moment. Okay, what happens is all these resources in here get generated into a resx file.
Okay.
Which means that if you want to localize,
it makes
designer,
it easier for that.
You can localize the designer.
Great.
Okay,
Great.
so that was the idea.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go to the image here. Where were we? We were there. Okay, and now I can go and choose my image. So let's browse and see what we've got on this machine. So what would be a good place to go?
Try Windows. Just go to the Windows folder.
Okay, my computer. Where are we? Windows. Yes.
Can you pull it from an exe file?
No, this will do. Coffee bean. What's that? I can't.
I don't know.
Bitmap. Let's just choose one of these. I don't know. Let's see what it does.
All right.
Let's try that. Okay. Open. Well, that will do. That's quite big, isn't it? Let's Let's perhaps try something. Blue lace. Wonder what that is. That will do. Okay. So you just and it supports a number of kind of image formats.
Great. So it doesn't have to be an icon file.
No. So now what we'll do is we'll go back to the DSL details window. We've now got this new decorator, and I'll put a visibility filter, and I'll do the same again. I said it was the start, didn't I? So start image up there. So let's filter that so it only shows when the start value is. Right. So now change that. Let's transform all templates again.
So if you wanted to make a stop image, then you would create another one of these decorators?
Yeah, and you'd actually create the right image. I mean, I go to Visio actually very often and just create images in Visio and then save them as EMF
maybe a
files.
stop sign or something.
It works fine.
Yeah, great.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, so let's run the debugger again. Start debugging. And open this again. Right, so there you see the image appearing in the bottom right hand corner. Okay, only on states which are start states. So if I change that to stop now, the image goes away. All right. So that gives you the three kinds.
Fantastic.
All right.
That was easy.
And you can just carry on doing that.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Sure, definitely.
So I thought perhaps what I could do now is just show you a couple of the other templates. Would that make sense? Just to give you. So that kind of, I've created a designer, and as you can see, I can just change the definition, and the whole designer changes its behaviour and so on. Other areas I can change which I haven't done. Let's just take you through some of those. Okay, so just some other things you can change. I won't do it now, but you can see the editor. You can add new tools. Okay, so you can change the tools. And what else? There's a whole Explorer behavior where you can have some custom node settings which declares, if I do one, okay, add Explorer node settings. So under that you choose for a class, okay, so suppose say, well, we've only got state elements in this. If I didn't want to see them in the Explorer, I'd say for that class it doesn't show the domain class. That means it's not showing the...
It's not visualizing
It's not visualizing the bracket bit, you know, which said this was a state. Okay, and then you can also choose an icon to display next to it, which I won't do now. And you can also choose the text that's displayed. Okay, so if I go there and add new property path, this thing, okay, allows you to actually choose the text that gets displayed for the state. All right. So by default, it will select the name, which is what it's being doing. So suppose I wanted to choose the kind to display in the Explorer. Okay, so let's go back to here. What I'll choose is actually going to be. I need to put a path on. Yes. I'm going to forget how to do this now. so let's have a look. Where am I? I'm on the. No, I'm not going to try and do it now because I'll just spend ages trying to do it. But basically, you can actually, with this route, you can actually choose to decide the text that actually gets displayed on the property, if that's what you want to do.
And what is that path? That's not a file path. That's
no, this is a little language we have. I'll show you an example path here. Where have I got one? In this mapping. Okay, so if I go back here, we've got this little language which is for navigating across the model. Okay, so this is saying that basically the parent of the element here, of a state element, is got by navigating this relationship up to get to there. Okay, now why that matters is because when I create a shape, a state shape, you need to know where to place that shape.
Sure.
Okay, and in this case, this is saying place it on the shape mapped to this element, this parent element.
Okay.
Which is the diagram.
Okay.
So state's got to put on the diagram. But we need this to allow. I'll show you another template in a minute where you can put shapes on swim lanes, or port shapes on other shapes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then you have to change the parent path.
And then presumably, if you showed us the code behind files that you would write to do validation checking, for example. That's how you would reference the object model of your design.
Yes,
right?
that's right. Yes.
Okay.
So you can in fact you can write validation rules in code for your designer. I'm just trying to think if I delete this. Okay. Just delete that. All right, and now I go validate all. It's now coming up with some validation errors.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
That's because that's an invalid model.
Yep.
Now this code. So by the way, this designer was built using DSL tools.
Another example of recursion here. That's great.
It's a generated designer.
Yep.
Okay. And then we added some custom code, for example, to do the auto layout
Sure.
and stuff like that.
Sure.
But these validation rules, you write them as in methods in a specified place. Okay, and we have the framework that handles all the posting of error messages up to Visual Studio. And if I double click on one, which is here, it actually takes you to the place in the UI where the problem is.
Oh, great.
Okay,
Jump right to it.
so you can just go, not there, there we go, and it just takes you there. Okay.
Is that icon? Is that,
So
okay.
it's there, it's in there. Okay.
Got it.
That was the mistake. And if I took the other one,
Yep.
it took me over here because I haven't put a path to the property over here.
Okay.
Which is also a validation error.
Wow, that's great.
So that way you can debug your designer essentially by running those validation rules on that DSL definition.
I wish the rest of my Visual Studio errors surfaced in that manner. That'd be great.
Yeah. So we did a lot of work because we realised, if we're generating code, this is actually in general for model-driven development. If you're generating code, you're not likely to, or you're not going to understand that code as well as if you'd written it by hand. Okay, so that means your models have to have good validation in them to find the errors before it hits the generated code.
Sure, makes sense.
So that's we put a lot of effort into doing that for our own case. Okay, and we provided the framework for people to write their own validation methods against the designers that they built. Okay.
Great. What else do you have for us here?
Okay, so this bit allows you to customize the serialization behavior. I won't go into that now. What I'll do is I'll just show you what I mean. Let's have a look here. Start debugging again. Aha. No, I don't think I regenerated the code, did I? Hang on. Let's just save that. Finally, I didn't regenerate the code. I'll be all right. So, start debugging. I think I am all right. Yes. Okay. What I just wanted to show you was if I open the. So let's close this, and what I'm going to do is just open it in the XML editor. So where was it? Sample. Okay. So the first thing is the model file and the diagram file are separated.
Okay.
Okay. So if I open the model file in the XML editor, we've got really clean, or pretty clean XML. All right. So here we are: state machine, element, state, state, state. All right. And this format can be customized over here. So if I just select that and do, can I see F4? So I had there. You see the kind of things you can do. You can say what the element name is, for example.
So you're describing the way that even down to what the XML file looks like.
Down to what the XML file looks like.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And this is also custom. If you set that to true, then you go into code to decide what the XML format for that element is like.
Oh, wow. You guys thought
so you've
everything.
got really good customization here.
That's great.
That was the idea here. So, and also the diagram file isn't bad either, which uses exactly the same techniques, because the shapes are actually model elements as well underneath the surface. So we can use exactly the same stuff to serialize the diagram.
Wow.
Which we do. So if I open with that in the XML, actually it is the default. Okay. So, that's not bad, all right? We've got the positioning, which you can kind of read for the transition link. Absolute bounds, which is this gives you the corners of the shape. Again, we've got, sensible things, all right? And these are then referencing. You see, that's referencing the state in the other model. So the shapes reference the stuff across in the other file.
Very cool.
All right.
That's awesome.
Now, we've chosen to serialize the IDs of, in this case, the model as a GUID, but you can also customize that.
Okay.
So you can decide to serialize it if you want to choose one of your properties, like the name. So in the case of state, we've chosen the name of the state to serialize its identity.
Oh, okay.
So we can use that for cross-referencing.
Yep.
So by playing with those kind of things, what you find is that you can actually get very clean XML if you want.
That's great. I know a lot of customers really love that, especially if you're writing your own tools later to go back and parse this and do interesting things.
That's it. We've had that feedback. Also, this gives us a way of visualizing existing XML formats.
Sure.
You've now got a chance.
Yep.
Because in the end, you can just rip out the whole serializer and just write your own if
Sure.
you need to.
Sure.
So we've now got a way of what we wanted to make sure was that if people have got existing XML formats, okay, they can read them in and visualize them if they want to.
Great.
And a key aspect of that was the separation of the diagram file from the model file, because their XML format will be the equivalent of this model file.
Right.
It won't have any diagram information.
Yep.
So you can't change that. You can't go and add diagram information. By separating them, we've actually got the diagram information, which we'll always produce, in a separate file.
That's great.
So that way we've sort of catered for that scenario we expect people to actually use.
Great.
Okay, so just to finish then, why don't we just get rid of this solution. What I'll do is I'll open a new project, and I thought what I'd do is just show you one of the others. Okay, just in arbitrary language. So, which do you want to see, component models or task flow, or both even?
Let's take a look at the task flow. That looks cool.
Let's have a look at the task flow. Okay, I'll just check I haven't got. No, that's fine. So it's doing the same again, creating me a solution. Okay, transforming all the templates.
So you can see already this one's a bit more complex than the Hello World one.
You can indeed,
Yep.
yes, yes. So we could just have a quick look at this. In fact, why don't I just zoom it out so you get an idea of, okay.
Here we go.
Alright, so there's, you see the kind of, so it's got an actor, flow graph has actors, okay, and they map to flow elements, right? And then we got a whole load of different kinds of shapes over here and connectors and things. So let's just run that, start debugging. Okey-doke. So let's just open a sample and you can see the kind of thing. Right, so here's a swim lane diagram.
Cool.
Okay. Now I just want to show you the kinds of things you've got here. So there are the actors, and under the actors you have the flow elements. Okay. Now, if I move one of these across, tries to select it. What's happened here? Oh right. If I move one of these across, watch it disappear underneath that actor.
Oh wow.
And now appear underneath this one.
So it's full two-way sync there.
Changes here in the diagram are actually changing the model.
Great.
Okay, underneath.
That's
all right?
cool.
And these are used particularly for kind of business flow diagrams and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Right. So you can customize the separator, the color, the text font, the text, not the fonts. You can customize the text style and everything used up here. And again, all these stuff, all these shapes and everything. So here's an example of what's called an image shape. Okay, so this is a shape that just displays an image.
Okay.
This is actually another image shape, this one. Okay, because we actually don't support diamond as a geometry, so you can
import your own
do it
image.
with an image shape, and you can get a long way with there. This is the swim lane, so if I added another swim lane across onto here, it's probably added it to the end. Yes, it has. I can also add one, say, before, so I can right-click here and go Add Before Actor, and I get a new one appearing in between. And I can move them like that. Okay.
Cool.
You can move stuff between. Unfortunately, in this release, we didn't quite get to the swapping swim lanes over.
Oh, okay.
Stuff like that. But you know,
maybe next time.
We've thought about that.
Yep.
So that's the kind of swim lane one. I guess I may as well just. Have we got time? Just quickly do the component one.
Yeah, we have about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's just show you that one. So let's not save that. Let's do File, New. Of course, I'm adding lots of new languages to your machine now.
That's all right.
So
More the merrier.
Right, so let's take the component models one. I won't do class diagram because everybody kind of knows what they look like.
Yep.
So component model. So actually this is the kind of diagram that we've got in the T-Mark tools. Let me just do the usual code generation. Right, debug. Why's it going there? Right. Okay, so let's just, I think there's a sample here which I can open. So there we go.
Cool.
So that's the component model. And these are ports, so I can't move them out of the shape.
Oh, okay.
Do you see?
So yeah, this is just like the designers and team system,
That's
right?
Yeah. Except you can customize this completely.
Mhm.
It's just, for some reason, there's a slight delay. It's probably connecting to the Team Foundation server or something. Right.
Could be my Zune software running in the background.
Okay,
Who knows?
Okay. So the other thing is, just to show you, we have shift control. You've got zoom, by the way, on your target designer as well.
Cool.
Okay, so that's all there for you, and print and stuff like that. So this is a component board. Let's just have a look beneath that, and just to show you some of the shapes we've got here. So we've got this notion of a port shape. We've got an import and an outport, and each of them has an image decorator on. Did you see that? There's the image for the import. And
Oh,
if I
okay.
do that, that was the image for the outport.
Yep.
So these are shapes, but they're port shapes.
Mhm.
Now if I go to the mapping, I just want to show you, let's just stop debugging again. Okay, so I get these windows back. Let's just show you under the, not the decorator maps, under this parent. Remember I told you what this parent element path was for?
Right.
Okay, it's the element that you're parented by. And in this case, it's parented by a port, is parented by a component. Here we go. So if I'll just bring the tree here so you can see it. Right, so you've got import and output, inherit from component port.
Okay.
So they are bound by this embedding relationship to a component. Now, a component in this case does not map to the diagram. It actually maps to a component shape.
Okay.
So this path down here is saying that the shape that I should put these port shapes on is the shape that maps to the component. I've just selected the wrong thing, sorry. Not that path, I mean, where's the port path? It was down here. This, here we go. So, maps to the component, okay? And the shape that maps to the component, as we've just seen up here, is a component shape, not the diagram.
And so that's the positioning. That's what makes the ports
So
actually
that's
stay
why
on
that's why the ports go on the shape and not
Great.
just free on the diagram.
Very cool.
Okay.
That's very intuitive.
And I didn't show you with the swim lane stuff. You do the same.
Mhm.
It's what you do is the shapes that go in the swim lane. Their mapping, their parent is the element that the actor in that case that was mapped to the swim lane.
Great.
Okay. So with that stuff, you can actually go quite a long way to.
Yeah, I can imagine so.
Getting quite a rich mapping between your diagram notation and your modelling language.
Now, this has been out for a couple weeks now, right?
Yep.
And what can you tell us about what some customers are doing with it? Maybe some good examples.
Yes, I can kind of. Well, there's a customer called Ordina, and I can mention them. They're a Dutch company, and if you do a search, you'll find them on. They're a Dutch company, so their website's in Dutch.
Okay.
But they've got loads of stuff about software factories that they're building on their website.
Great.
And they've used DSL tools with some of their own extensions to actually build a little software factory. They have 3 or 4 designers, I think it is. Okay, they've got code generation coming off the designers really nicely, and it's to build web applications basically.
Okay.
And they're looking to actually take this into real customer projects.
Cool.
So that's one example, which because they've got a website, you can go and have a look at. Other examples, I can't really mention the names, but we've had one long-standing relationship with a company who've been using a designer to generate code to their own framework. It's actually a state chart-like designer.
Okay.
And they've rolled it out to a number of projects internally in the company. and got very good feedback. The developers really like it. It's a really productivity gain. And now they're looking at other designers and other code generation strategies they can use throughout the rest of the company.
Great.
We got various SIs. I got an email this morning from another SI who's, said, "Oh look, here's another set of designers and code generators we've used to build this." There's a featured partner on the website. If I go down back to the website, which is Statesoft, who've built designers for. Where is it? Okay, so they've built a thing for creating UI basically, and that they've got a designer that they are shipping and selling, which has been built using DSL tools and code generators as well.
Cool. So something like the Windows Forms designer almost then?
Yes, I must confess I haven't actually looked at it in detail.
Sure.
I've been so heads down trying to get the stuff finished. I did see an early demo. Yeah, it's actually that UIP thing I showed you, the wizard designer.
Oh, right.
They use it for kind of defining the logic and stuff.
Very cool.
Yes, and so we're seeing lots of customers who want to use this. We're also, DSL tools is the sort of first part of a broader strategy, which is for software factories, for building software factories. So it's, one piece of that platform. And where we're going now is to start building out that platform.
And using your own designer, I hope.
Oh, absolutely,
Yep.
yes, using our own designers.
That's awesome.
And it will be the same recursive thing. We'll actually have a factory.
Oh, okay.
So if you like, this is a designer factory.
Yep.
It's a factory for producing designers. So we'll have a factory, which is a factory for producing factories.
Cool.
Which will comprise many designers, code generators, automated guidance, all that kind of stuff.
Great. So we're just about out of tape. Thank you for the great interview. This is going to be really helpful. Customers can go get this in the Visual Studio SDK, and I assume you have forums or some way of getting a hold of the team?
Oh, yes, sorry, I should mention that. Yep. So if you go back to our website, here we go. Yes, so play with it, try it, and submit feedback, and go onto the forum.
Awesome.
So he's logged into the forum. There we are. Great.
All right.
So there's a very active forum. We try as a team. We have a rotation system to make sure that we keep track of the forum and answer questions. But also, you'll find that you'll get lots of answers from other people who've
Sure.
been using it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Very cool. And all the documentation is in the SDK as well.
Oh yes, I didn't show you that, did I? Have I still got it open? Off our designer. It's even better. It's online now. So if I select something like that and go F1, if I'm right, okay, use online help. I'm assuming we're connected in. There we go. F1 help off the designer.
Great.
So, and oh dear, what happened there?
Oh, it's probably my machine.
Okay, so we've got it's in the Visual Studio SDK. If I just go down here, you'll see domain-specific language tools as part
Great.
of the help, and you can carry on and drill down.
Great.
And we got a UE team who are carrying on to the end of the year.
Okay.
So the documentation's not finished. They're carrying on and
Continuing
releasing
to update
updates. So if you
that.
have, stuff you'd like to be documented or bugs in the documentation, just file them in and we'll do our best to get them fixed.
Awesome. Responding to feedback. I love it. All right. Well, thanks so much, Stuart, and safe flight back to the UK.
Okay, thanks
All
very
right,
much.
Cheers.
Great.